All right. Let me get a quick check. Can somebody let me know they see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so a little bit about Concur. Concur will replace both Extensity and Bassware for filing expense reports. And that will include out-of-pocket expenses, cell phone reimbursements, mileage reimbursements, as well as any U.S. bank credit card transactions. So all of those will now go through one consolidated platform company-wide. If you were a legacy Extensity user, you are aware that your credit card transactions just flowed right into Extensity, you attached them to an expense report, and you submitted the expense report. For our Bassware users, this is going to be new. So now, whereas you would have to keep track of your credit card transactions before, these will now automatically flow into Concur and be sitting there and ready for you to file. The second change is that, again, not new for Extensity users, but new for Bassware users, we will remit payment to U.S. Bank on your behalf. So you will no longer have to pay U.S. Bank. You won't wait for your reimbursement and then pay. When you file that expense report, we will have an automated process that sends those payments directly to U.S. Bank for you, to the extent that the expense report is filed. So what that means is if your balance is, say, $5,000 and you file an expense report for $3,000, we're going to pay the $3,000. We're not going to pay your full balance. So, but as long as you're continuing to file 100% of your transactions, that balance should always be paid in full. The one caveat to that is you still are responsible for late payment fees, and those you will pay directly to U.S. Bank. The other change is that reimbursements now will, so for your out of pocket, so things that you've had cash outlay for, those things will now flow through payroll instead of accounts payable. So you've been used to getting, an ACH, pretty quickly within days after the expense report's been approved. The change for that now is it will go through payroll. So whatever cycle that expense report is submitted on, whatever payroll cycle it coincides with, that will be on your next paycheck. It will show up as a separate line item, so it will stand out, and it's also non-taxable. So we've had a couple of those questions come up. So that's how it will work through payroll. A few more things about Concur. It has mobile, so we've not ever had the mobile features for either Bassware or Extensity. There is an app that you can put on your phone. You can take pictures of your receipts and it will store those images, kind of like a virtual wallet, if you will. You can file your expense report. You can track your expense report all through the app. So you don't have to be, on a laptop or a desktop to be able to file your expense reports if you're on the road. And managers can also approve from the app. So again, it makes it much more, fluid. You don't have to be tied to a computer to do it. Another feature is in partnership with Travel Inc. And so if you haven't heard of what Travel Inc. is, it is the new travel booking tool that will replace Agencia. Now, if I have any legacy gatehouse, that is a change. You have not had a centralized booking tool before, so that this is new. It is all, and I'll show you once we're in Concur, it is all packaged within Concur. You can access Travel Inc. all through the same place, so it makes it really convenient. But in partnership with them, because they have that, you have the ability to sign up for e-receipts. And so what e-receipts are is it enables vendors like, the hotel chains, the car rental chains, the ride sharing like Lyft and Uber. If you sign up for those e-receipts, it will send those receipts directly into Concur. So they're just sitting there waiting for you. So again, all great new features that will make the whole expense reporting process much, much easier. So that's kind of the big changes in terms of the system changes. I want to cover a few of the T&E policy updates. Now, this is by all means not comprehensive, but these are the ones I felt like were very relevant to the expense reporting process. I encourage you, it was attached to the communication, both the T&E and the mobile policies. I encourage you to read through those because there are changes in there from what it has been in the past. But these are the ones that I think are most relevant for us today. So the receipt policy has changed. Receipts will no longer be required on U.S. bank credit card transactions. So anything that you put on your company card, with the exception of hotel, receipts will not be required. We do still require the hotel invoices with the itemization, regardless of whether they're on your corporate card or not. That's just a requirement that we have. I will say that this doesn't supersede what your manager might want to see. So if your manager still wants you to attach those receipts just because they want to see the support because it makes them feel more comfortable approving, and also downstream if, for instance, your expense report is audited, when it's convenient, and like I've shown, there is plenty of options, hopefully, to make that easier. But where it's convenient, attaching receipts, if it minimizes downstream questions for you as a user, it might behoove you, again, where convenient or significant dollars, you may want to do that. But again, not required on U.S. bank credit card transactions. All out now. This change is we used to have a rule that anything 25 and over required a receipt. Anything under that was not required. So that rule is out. Anything that is out of pocket, so anything you personally pay for and are asking to be reimbursed for, requires a receipt regardless of the dollar amount. So that's a change. The daily meal allowance, not a huge change, but it did go from 50 to 55, and that's daily.
I have a couple questions. May I ask?
Sure.
Okay, so first, the one for $25. We, in other markets, but we have tickets available to pro games. Now, right now, it doesn't take effect, but at some point it may. And we take people to VIP sections of the stadium, and a lot of times there's a tip involved with some of the help. And in the past, if we tip them, it's usually $20 or so that we'll tip the help because this is a high dollar place, and we never needed a receipt for that in the past. I don't always put that, or I didn't always expense that, but it's kind of hard, I think, to ask a waiter or a maitre d' or whatever for a receipt for a tip of $20. So I guess we'll just have to incur that in our own. If we're going to do that, it hits our own expense, is what I'm expecting. And I think we can be, and this question has come up, and of course, that's, maybe specific to something you're doing, but we are talking through some ways in which we can capture it on some kind of form or something. Okay. So we'll loop back on that. Okay. And secondly, the meal allowance. Last week or the week before, I had to put it on my personal card, which I have the receipt for. But there were 3 gentlemen at the meal, and it was like $120. That exceeds, but I had 3 clients with me.
So this applies to personal meals. This is for employee meals only. This doesn't.
I pay for my own. I'm not worried about that. I'll pay for my.
All right.
All right.
So this is just for daily personal meals that you would incur. That is not for client engagement or staff. This is just for you on your own. Sure. Yep. So then lastly is...
I have a question.
Can we hold the questions maybe till the end, just because we're doing the recording and I want to kind of keep it as clean as possible?
Sure.
Okay. And be sure to type anything in the chat because Shauna's monitoring that for us. So she can answer, your questions as we're going through. Payroll is moving away from the mileage spreadsheet submissions. this has been a very hot topic throughout our different calls that we've had. So I know that there'll probably be a lot of questions on that. Again, put them in the chat. We have found that many people are using those spreadsheets and sending them to payroll, but we are moving away from that, except in instances where it creates a hardship for the employee, meaning they don't have access to a computer for whatever reason. There will be those few exceptions, but as the big picture, everything will go through Concur, and that includes the tolls and the parking meters and all those different scenarios that you might currently be putting on the mileage spreadsheets. I will say that I'm only speaking about reimbursement. So if your manager or your department or your site as a whole requires that you track, clients you visited, where, the different legs of the trip that you had that day, cities, whatever their particular reporting requirements are for tracking, we are not saying don't do that. We're not saying what we're doing supersedes it. We're just saying your mode of reimbursement now will be Concur and not those spreadsheets. So when we do some mileage examples in Concur, I will kind of talk through what some of the options are for doing that. But just know that as a whole, company-wide, we're moving away from those spreadsheets. All right, so let's get into the actual demo. So you will access Concur through Okta. There is a new chiclet out there. You don't have to request it. It's going to be out there for you because everyone has it. So let me switch over here to okay, tell me if you can see. So you should see Concur. Is that what you see up here?
Yes.
Okay. So you won't have to sign in. It will be single sign-on for you through Okta. As long as you're in Okta, you can get to it. Because I'm doing a test system, I have to sign in. Okay, so this is what Concur looks like. It has that dashboard feel to it. They have these individual boxes, and depending on your access, you'll have maybe different boxes. So if you're an approver, you'll have a third box that's got expense reports that are pending your approval. Also, you'll notice up here at the top, and I'll show you when I log in as myself later. You'll see that if you are a user, you'll have expense. Everybody has this app center. You'll have a link that says travel, which is where the travel booking tool is. If you're an approver, you'll have a link that says approval. So up here at the top is really kind of your ribbon to navigate based on what your custom access is. So here on available expenses, this is where your credit card transactions will show up. So anything from US Bank, or I guess if I have some legacy Gatehouse users, HSBC, will show up here on your available expenses. Any reports that you have started and not submitted, and or ones that were returned to you for some reason, will all be here in your open reports. So up here at the top, you see this plus, and it says start a report. So we're going to start one. You have to give it a name and a business purpose. There's a drop down. If you don't see something specific to what you're doing or your purpose, there's an other. So you can put other and then put a comment in about what your trip was for. or your expense report was for. I'm just going to pick something. Your company and cost center will be defaulted here, and that's based on your payroll cost center. You shouldn't really need to change that. If you end up having specific transactions that need to be allocated somewhere else, you can actually do that in the body of the expense report. So I would say 9 times out of 10, this is actually just going to be whatever your normal default is. So once you have that in there, you're going to click Next down here in the right corner. Okay, so first thing you notice, the source here, when it looks like it has 2 little bars, but that's actually a credit card. So these are all of your available credit card transactions that you can add to the expense report. So I'm going to add a few of these. I'm going to add a hotel. And let's see. I'll just add those. So once I've selected the ones I want, you could select all if you wanted, but I just wanted to select a few. And up here in the right corner, it says Move to Current Report. So now you'll see they're over here on the left under my report. And I also, you'll notice, have some warning messages. So since this is a hotel, it's saying, hey, you got to itemize that. And then this one is an undefined expense. So you'll notice under the expense type, Concur does a pretty good job based on the merchant category. They're able to ascertain whether it's airfare or car rental for the most part. There are on occasion some, like this one, that are undefined, meaning Concur couldn't figure out what it was supposed to be, what expense type it was supposed to be. So we'll have to select that. And I think Concur does a really good job, but I think it's always in your best interest just to make sure that the expense type is reasonable. You know, I mean, I think hotels is pretty straightforward, but on some that might not be as clear. Just make sure it's what you expect the expense category to be. So we'll drill into this first one. Everything looks fine. Because it's a credit card transaction, we're not being asked to provide a receipt. So this one really, there's nothing that we would need to do with this one. So I'm just gonna. And then, so let's move to this undefined one. So right here, all these fields in red are required fields. So through the credit card transaction, it pulls in, you know, as best it can what it thinks the information is. So in undefined, though, you can find all the different expense categories. Since this just says miscellaneous general merchandise, I'm just going to choose like other business supplies. I don't really know what it is, but you obviously will. If you want to change this vendor name to be something more specific, let's say Staples. Change it here. You should be able to change it there, but for some reason, probably because it's in test. So once I do that, I can change the cost center if it needs to go to somewhere else by changing these drop downs here. I can also allocate it to multiple places. So if you come down here to the bottom, there's this allocate. So say it was something that you needed to share between departments or share between business units. You absolutely can do that by adding a new allocation. And then you'll notice it splits it, 50-50. You can change those percentages if you want it to be 70-20 or whatever the case may be. You can also change it to be by dollar instead. So if you wanted to allocate the dollars between different business units, you could, and then you would just pick here, either by text. So I mean, for me, I know the codes better than I know like the names, but you have the ability to search either way. You can search on text or you can search on code, either way. And that's how you would allocate between multiple. May not do that very often, but just so you know, you have the ability to do that. I'm not going to save it. So once we have the expense type and everything completed, then you can save down here at the bottom. So you notice now it's giving me another error. Please provide a comment for this expense. So there are a few of the expense types where it's miscellaneous or other or some, undefined, that it's going to want more specifics on. So where you see that, you'll have to type a comment in, and I'll just say paper, let's just say, and then save. And now you'll notice that that error message goes away, and I've got a little icon here now that says I've put in a comment. So that takes care of that one. The next one is this hotel. And so we all know that when you do a hotel expense, you have to itemize it. If it's a bigger hotel chain, so Royce must not be as large of a hotel chain, it will usually find the vendor for you. Like it has all the major chains, but it didn't find it, but it's not a required field. You'll notice it's not in red, so you don't have to populate it, but you certainly can if you want to. So here's our total amount, the $1,066.36, and we do have to itemize it. So I'm going to go over here to this nightly lodging expenses, the second tab here. Okay, so it's asking for a check-in date and check-out date. So I don't have the actual hotel invoice, so I'm just going to kind of make up some stuff. Okay, so you'll notice when I put in the check-in date, check-out date, it calculates the number of nights. I have to put in the nightly room rate. So I'm just going to say, for the sake of this, it's $250 a night, and I'm going to say my taxes are my taxes, I'm going to say, are $1,659. So down here at the bottom, you'll see additional charges. And if you do the drop down, say it was parking that you had or a meal that you had, just know that this is going to apply whatever you put here for each night of your stay. So say you had a meal for $50. It's going to apply that $50 charge to every single night, which is probably not what you want 9 times out of 10. There may be a few expenses that you have that are charged every single night, but I think the vast majority are going to be, different each night. So just know that this section down here is going to apply it, across every day. I will show you how to do specific charges in the itemization. So for now, for here, I'm just going to do the room rate and the room tax, and I'm going to save it. And you'll notice up here, the total amount is this. I've itemized this much, so I have a remaining $100 that I have to allocate. So you'll notice here is a new drop down. So it's looking for new itemization. So I'm going to say I had, let's say, laundry. And let's just say, just to keep it simple, we'll say it's $50 and I'll save it. And I've still got another 50, so I'm going to choose a meal this time. I'm going to say dinner. Another 50 and save it. So now you'll notice that my warning flag has gone away, but I've still got this little yellow icon. So if I hover over it, you can see receipt image required. So even though this is a credit card transaction, we said the one caveat was the hotel. So you still do have to attach the hotel receipt. So I'm going to click on this. Down at the bottom, you'll see attach receipt. And I will just browse for it. Hotel, there we go. And you'll notice once that is attached, I now have a third tab where I can see the image of the seat. So I'm just going to save it. So now I'm good on my credit card transactions. So let's say we have some out of pocket. So you can commingle an expense report with a combination of credit card and out of pocket. And at the end, I'll show you when I submit it, it gives you the breakout between what's coming back to you and what's being paid to US Bank. So there's logic going on in the background that allows you to submit, a single expense report and have it go the right direction. So you don't have to worry about doing, separate expense reports for US Bank versus out of pocket. So I'm just going to add a few out of pocket expenses. So all of the expense types are down here that are available to you to select. We tried to pick ones that were T&E and perhaps a few others that might be common based on what we saw submitted in Bassware and what we saw submitted in Extensity. So, the list is pretty comprehensive. I think you'll find about everything you need. But let's do a mobile reimbursement. So vendor is required. So I'm just going to say AT&T. The payment type is always going to be cash for out of pocket. In Extensity, we had, I think, personal credit card, cash, and personal check or something like that. Since all of those methods are all getting reimbursed back to you, it really doesn't matter how you personally paid for it because anything is being treated as out of pocket. So we just said, let's just have one payment type called cash. So even though maybe you didn't pay with cash, that's what the payment type is going to be there. Say 50 for the reimbursement. And then we know that because this is out of pocket, you're going to be required to attach a receipt. So we're going to go ahead and actually, let's do this. I'm going to show you what the error would look like if you didn't attach it when you tried to submit. So I won't attach that to that one quite yet. And then let's do mileage because that's another very common one. Mileage is going to be under here, personal car mileage. We were not quite yet successful in getting a standard mileage rate across the company. They are still working towards that goal, but as of now, we do not have a standard rate. So whatever rate you're currently using is the rate you should continue to use. And it's a free form right here. So you can input the rate, that you have. So the question has come up about, do I have to do this? Like if I went 3 different places in one day, do I have to enter each one of those separately? And the answer is no, you don't. You can aggregate those miles and enter the miles driven. The other question is, do I have to do this every day? And the answer is no, you don't have to do this every day. If you want to do it weekly, that's fine. Pick a Friday, put your miles in for the week. We're not trying to drive how you manage the process. This is just really about accounting for the miles that you've driven, the rate that you're driven, so that you are reimbursed for the expenses you should be. As far as tracking and what you're required, we're not in that space. You should do whatever your site requires. I'm just gonna pick. I don't know, 90 miles, more than that, but 32 cents. Again, cash, we don't care. Now you notice the amount 0, it's not going to calculate until I hit save. So if I hit save, you'll see it come up over here on the left-hand side. So you see it did the calc for me and it put in the amount. You'll notice there is no warning flag asking me for a receipt. There's no icon because receipts aren't required for mileage. So that's how you'll do mileage. And again, if daily is cumbersome, maybe weekly makes sense. I probably would make sure I'm at least doing it pretty frequently, and monthly, I guess, if monthly is what works best for you. Like, we're not, again, not trying to tell you how to do it, but just the mechanics of doing it. Let's do another out of pocket. And this one will attach a receipt for. Now, if for some reason you're missing a receipt, so remember this is an out of pocket, it's going to be required. If for some reason you are missing your receipt, we have a missing receipt affidavit, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little blue link here. If you click on that, this is saying a receipt's required. If you're missing the receipt, please use the affidavit. So you select the expenses that you want to do the affidavit for. And it's not going to let you do that until after you save it. It's kind of quirky. So let's go back into it. So now when we go to attach the receipt, we should be able to see it as an available. Yep, there it is. So we're going to say we want to do a missing receipt affidavit for the office supplies expense. And then, it has this little acceptance part, and then you put accept and create. And then see the error we get here? It says, please provide a comment. So it wants you to say, going to require you to put in a comment to do that. All right, so then there it is. But you'll see there's a warning message here now, so that anyone downstream who's approving the expense report will see that it does have a missing receipt affidavit attached. So that's it. I'm going to go ahead and submit the report. You have the ability to, if you want to see the detailed report, I'll pull this up here so you can see that view. This is just kind of a summary. This is really the only place you'll be able to see like the geocoding breakout. So if that's something that, your manager wants to see or someone downstream wants to see, they can, pull up this view. You can PDF it, email it, print it, whatever you want to do. But that's if you want the report. Under details here, if for some reason you needed to see the audit trail or the approval workflow, you could certainly do that there too, or see the receipts all in one place. So I'm going to go ahead and submit it. It's this orange button up here in the right-hand corner. I expect I'm going to get an error message because I haven't attached the mobile. See, not saying I'm not going to be able to submit because receipts are required. So I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to go back and just attach the receipt so I can submit. All right. And then I'm going to submit the report. And this time I shouldn't have any errors, and I didn't. So I'm going to say accept and submit, and it's going to give me a little summary. Here in the middle, you'll see amount due the employee is the $228.80, and that's for our out-of-pocket, and the amount due U.S. Bank, that's the amount we're going to send to U.S. Bank on your behalf. And then you can close it. So then it takes you back to, so in the past with Bassmore and Extensity, kind of once you submitted that expense report, you really didn't have any visibility into where it was and what was happening to it. this allows you to see, the expense reports you've submitted, any that might be returned to you, and you can see the status of it. You also have this report library. If you click on this link here, and you can see reports for the last 90 days. If you click on this view, you have all kinds of options. You can see the last year, month, quarter, any that are pending. But the real, benefit of this is that now you have the status. You'll see that these are approved and extracted for payment. So you can tell these are already done. And these are all pending. So you have that control now, whereas you didn't really have that before. All right, so that's all I have on just the mechanics of expense reports. I do want to get into a couple of things on the profile that you can manage. And I'll go ahead and jump into that. So up here at the top, you'll see this little person here, and you'll see profile. And if you go to profile settings, there's not a lot you can do here, but the main thing is this is where you'll find the mobile registration. So right here, it gives you all the instructions on the mobile and how to sign up for that. So that's important. You'll want to go there to see that. The other thing that's important, specifically for approvers, if you are going to be out of the office, you will need to set up a delegate, so someone who can handle your approvals while you're out. There will also be, if you're a manager and you have a proxy, an admin who handles the creation of your expense report, you'll also want to set up a delegate to do those features. In times past, in the admin role, we've always been able to do that for you. And in Bassware, you can file on behalf of anyone. So with Concur, that's a big change, because now that's going to be on the employees and the managers to manage that. If for some reason that they are out of the office and your expense report sits there for 10 days, Concur automatically has built-in feature that it will route to their manager. And if it sits for 10 days, it routes to their manager. So it's an automatic process. The goal is so that those expense reports just aren't sitting there indefinitely, which is what happens now. And because we're moving to being reimbursed through payroll, it is going to be a longer life cycle for that payment. So we wanted to avoid, hardship on the employees with managers who just wouldn't get in there and approve. So that is built in now. But I do encourage you, when you're going to be out of the office, set your delegate. I have Shauna set up in here as mine, but I'll just add another one. So you can just start typing in. And you can select, they can prepare, they can submit, you can choose. Because I'm not a manager, I don't have the ability to delegate approval authority. Since I'm just a regular user, all I can have somebody do is just prepare or submit my report for me. But that's where you would go and do that. And that's over here under expense delegates. And that's really about all under profile. Most all this stuff is coming through from Dayforce, so you won't really have to update any of your information. So it's really the Concur mobile and setting up your delegates. So let me go back to here. One thing that I failed to show was a meal and how to add attendees. So let me just do like a new test expense report here. I'm just going to say customer visit. I'm going to do new expense, and I'm going to choose a multiple attendee meal. We'll just say it's a staff meal. Yesterday. You'll see as you start typing it, it will bring up potential cities. I'm going to say $80. So it automatically includes me. I know it says traveler, but that's because it's a test. But it would normally say your name. If you want to add either business guests or employee guests, you would click on advanced search. And you'll notice the drop down here, it says business guest. I'm just going to, since it's a staff, I'm going to look for specific employees. You just type in their name and then you can search. And it'll bring up a list of potential people that you might want to select. You select them and say add to expense. I'm going to add somebody else. Add to expense. And then I close this out and you'll see now it's automatically split that 3 different ways between the 3 different attendees that I had. So that's how you would itemize a meal. All right. So that's really all from a user perspective. I was going to show the manager view in just a second, but does anybody have any just real quick questions on that or something that they want to see more on?
If you take somebody out to dinner, you're paying for the meal. Then what happens? They're the attendee, but you don't want them paying for the meal.
No. That's just itemizing who all was at the meal because you're required to report who all attended that meal. They're not paying for it. You're paying for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And now again, if you leave a tip, and that's cash.
Yes.
That was something that you did show us, kind of. That was in.
Yeah. Well, you would include, even if you paid cash, if it was on a credit card.
No, you left cash. You left cash. It's not a credit card.
Oh, you left cash. Well, you would have to include the receipt that showed where you put a cash tip.
There's no receipt that says cash tip.
You have to have something, though, that shows that you paid the cash. That's kind of the issue we were talking about earlier, because anything 5 and under per the policy now, you have to have some sort of something substantiating that. So, you
left a tip and you're going to ask the restaurant or the hotel, whatever, or the housekeeper to give you a receipt.
Or then I said, we could probably come up with some kind of form or something to use, but they're requiring it. Some people have said, well, can I just take a picture of the cash? I mean, it's a difficult thing. And I understand.
Can you take a picture of the cash or no?
That's fine. We just have to have something substantiated.
So if you just take a picture of the cash that you've left on a table, that's sufficient.
Yes.
Okay.
Could I ask a question real simple?
Sure.
Okay, it's just, this is basic mileage. So you did the mileage and you put the date and you went from Fishers to Cincinnati or something.
Yeah.
Now, let's say that was a Monday. So can you save that if we're deciding to do these mileage reimbursements weekly? So do you save that and then do it again Tuesday? And if you save it, where is it? Or should you do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on a Friday night?
Yeah. So if you have daily mileage, for me personally, I would just aggregate that for the week. Unless there's some overriding reason you have to want to do it every day, I would aggregate it for the week and just do one day.
Oh, great.
I think it would make it much easier rather than doing it on a daily basis. Sure.
Yeah, I'm Legacy Gatehouse. We never had that ability, and if we can do that, that would be wonderful. Thanks.
Sure.
Yay.
All right.
I also have a question on the I drive a lot, so I'm more concerned about the mileage and tolls. About electronic tolls, should we do that monthly when we get our Easy Pass bill?
Yep, that works just fine.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yep.
And then weekly miles, we can just add up the miles for the week that we drove and put in whatever cities or towns we want. It really doesn't matter.
No, not really. Nope.
And then
again, this isn't for tracking necessarily. It's just really for reimbursement. So, yep, that will work just fine.
Great. Thank you very much.
Sure, no problem. So let me sign in as a approver.
If we aren't managers, can we log off now?
Let's see. I was trying to think on profile. Yeah, if you are not, if you're not proxy, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so as an approver, we see expense here, and now we have approvals because we're an approver. You can also see these expense reports here where there are required approvals. And if you click on that, you'll see the expense reports that are available for you to approve. So we'll just click on this one I did today. And any warning messages that you have will show up here at the top. Remember, this one we said was because, we had the missing receipt affidavit. If you click on any of these here that would have a receipt attached, like this one here, you'll see the receipt image shows up here on the right-hand side. So you have the ability to see it right there attached. You also have the ability, if you want to view them in a completely new window, you can do that by clicking on receipts up here. But if everything looks good, you can approve it. If there's something that you feel like is amiss or you have questions on, you can send back to the employee. And as you saw in the previous view, you saw the returned expense report. That would be one that looks like that. And then if for some reason you wanted to FYI someone else, you could approve and forward the expense report on. But let's just say for the sake of this, we're okay with it. And we're going to click approve and accept. It's thinking, says it's approved. And now it's out of my queue. And that's really all there is to approving the expense report. The only last thing I want to show, and this is really only for the benefit of those that would be proxying as someone else. So I'm going to stop share for a minute and reshare. And now I'm just going in as myself. This is what the production environment looks like. You'll see here at the top, I've now got this travel button. So that's where I would do travel. And this is the production view. It's got a little more on it because we got the trip stuff going on. But you'll see here when I click on my profile, if I'm a proxy, like if my manager has said I can act on behalf of them, here is where you would go to sign in. And once you start typing, you'll see a list of names that automatically come up. So when I sign in as that and I start the session, you'll notice that it flips over and up here in green, it says I'm acting as someone else. So when I'm acting as someone else, it doesn't follow my approval workflow. It would follow Shauna's approval workflow. So just know that when you're proxying, it won't be your manager necessarily that gets it. It'll be their manager. Lastly, we have the resources site. So you'll see here in the middle, there is this, and this is a legacy gatehouse site. Gannett also has one. We just haven't put the links up there yet, but we're working on that. But they have some really great printable PDFs of how to do about everything in Concur. They also have these, they're pretty short, but very good. I was pretty impressed with them. All those things that were in the printable training doc, you can also watch a short video tutorial to how to do them. And also on our expense management home site, this is Ganette's site, which eventually we'll all move to. There is the training tab, and it's got all those same documents and also one of my previously recorded training sessions. So anyway, those resources are available. And like I said, I've been pretty impressed with it. It's very detailed. So if you get hung up, I would wager most everything you need to do will be available there. So
how did you get there? I'm sorry. Was that from the Concur site? I missed it.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Let me go back here. Oh, I got to go back to the website here. So under this company notes section, here, there's this link right here. And this is legacy for this will Gannett employees can get to this, but it's really was for Legacy Gatehouse. We will be putting Gannett's expense management site, which was the second site I showed you. This is Gannett's site. And we have a training tab over here. Those of you who've used Extensity probably are more familiar with this site. But and then if you need help, of course, expense reports. So if you're just hung up on using Concur, we have expense reports at Gannett.com. And then if it's something related to your credit card, you can email cardsupport@Gannett.com. So those are two resources that you can use. Hopefully between all those different things, that'll be enough to help you navigate. I feel like it's pretty user-friendly. I mean, compared to Bassware and Extensity, I feel like it's got a little more user-friendliness about it. But anyway, that's all I have for today. Does anybody have anything real quick? We've got a few minutes left in the hour.
Alicia, this is Pamela. I may have missed it, but did you talk about how to sign up for e-receipts?
Well, yes and no. I did the high level of it. I need to, there is a doc on it out here. Let me go to it real quick here. Because I have not done that yet, but there is, I may have to find something on that because I have not personally signed up for those yet. And we didn't really get, that might be part of the training, the Travel Inc. training. That might be part of that since it's really more related to the travel site. But I can look that up and we can get back to the group on that.
Thank you.
I do have a quick question about the cell phone bill receipt.
Yeah.
Since I don't get a paper bill, what's the best way to get the receipt? Am I going to print it out at home and have to email it to myself? I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to get it into the system, or will I be able to do it on the app?
Yeah, you can do it on the app. That's what I would do. Or take a picture or something, whatever. Yeah, I think you could do it that way. Screenshot it maybe.
Yeah.
Like if you have it up on your screen and screenshot it, I think that would work fine.
Do you need all the pages of the bill?
No. Just the summary is fine.
Okay. And one other quick thing. I did this, my first Concur was in February, and it was a nightmare because the hotel had different rates for all the different nights.
Yeah.
That wasn't addressed I went through all those training documents and that wasn't addressed anywhere.
Yeah. So you can average the nights. That's what I ran into this too. And you can average the nights if it's different rates on each night. And if you get rounding issues, you can adjust it as you need to, up or down.
So you could average the tax as well?
Yeah, I would just try to get it to where it like averaged out to something even that didn't create rounding issues. It's less important, it's hard when those rates aren't the same. I ran into the same issue when I was testing, so I do understand the pain. So I would just average it out. If it's 3 nights, just divide it by 3 or 4 or whatever it is, just to get to something round that you can put
So as long as it adds up to the total at the top, we're okay,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. No problem.
For the app, I was trying to set it up during this meeting, and it's asking for like our username and login. But since we get into Concur through Okta, I don't have a Concur username and login, and when I use my Okta username and login, it doesn't work.
Well, I have not heard that before, but then again, I don't know. I've known anyone that actually tried doing it. So let's go offline and I'll look at that. Who was it that was talking?
Leslie Webster.
Okay. All right. Let's look at it because I don't have the answer right
I
now.
just did it, and there's a Concur mobile registration section in the Concur app under the settings. That gives you the information you need.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. Thanks. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn for today. Thanks for everybody's time. If there was things that we didn't get to in the chat, we most definitely will. I know Sean was keeping track for us, so we will get back to you on anything we were not able to. But have a great day, everybody.
You too, and stay safe.
Thanks. Bye.
The recording has stopped.